let me start with just to explain something. So the purpose of today is to make an introduction to sexual medicine. What does it mean? I want to demonstrate that sexual medicine is a real science. In other words, when we are studying sexual behavior, we may use exactly the same tools, the same instruments, the same way of reasoning of the other part of medicine. So basically, the key message of sexual medicine of this lesson is that sexual medicine is a part of medicine, is an important part of medicine. Because guys, you know that you are here in this room for what? Because a sexual act. Because our species is reproducing by sex. So sex is definitely the most important aspect of our life. Let's go now, after the introduction, to the core of our talk, of our discussion. So this is a joke where I'm looking at the microscope into the bed of the people in order to understand what is the biology of seduction. Because at the end of the story, we are humans, but we are also animals. And so we are using the same principle, the same hormones, the same nerves and vessels that the animals are using. So that's the reason why we will use a lot of animal models. Please. Let's go. Okay, so the aim of today, the aim of the lessons will be to introduce to the medical students and to the psychology student also the Darwinian approach, the idea that we are here because of an evolution, because we evolved according to the Darwinian ideas. Then we will describe how the Darwinian evolution, the hormones, as well the brain, is shaping the attraction and the desire. So after that lesson, you will be very expert in seduction. You will know everything, all the secrets of male and female seduction. I want also to demonstrate, to show that my field, medical sexology, sexual medicine, is a part of the medical sciences and uses the same tools used by the other medical branches. Then there is something interesting, which is what we call beautiful. And so I will try to demonstrate what is the biology of the beauty, because you will see what the beauty is from a biological perspective. And finally, I will discuss about the fidelity and infidelity, because the real life is also based on this. Next, please. So let me start with a very, very important, very famous book, which has been written by one of my colleagues when I was a professor in the Oxford University, Richard Dawkins. And this book has been considered the most influential science book of all time. So it is very, very important. The most influential book in science that was considered. The name is the selfish gene. The selfish gene means that we are carriers of genes. And our genes, they want to go ahead. They want to survive. The genes does not care too much about the body, about the brain, about the sentiment, about the feelings. The genes, they just want to go ahead into the next generation, into the next generation. This is the Darwinian dogma. This is the Darwinian idea. So that, no, please come back. Go ahead. Okay. Okay, good. Now I am autonomous. I have this power in my hands. Okay. So it is I really suggest you to read this book because it's very, very important, very, very interesting, both for psychologists and for medical doctors. And I stolen from the Richard Dawkins book this sentence, which is, I think, very important, very interesting. The sentence is, we do admit that we are like the monkeys. However, we seldom admit that we are monkeys. And I will show you why we are monkeys. So this is a very interesting experiment that can be done using one kind of ape, one kind of monkey, which is the rhesus monkey. The rhesus monkey is very famous for the student of medicine because you know the factor, RH factor, which is important for the blood. So this factor is coming from the study in this monkey. So the experiment is very nice, it's very fun, because those monkeys are addicted to Coke. They like very, very much Coke, any kind of sweet Jewish, like a Coke or any kind of that. So they learn to obtain the Coke or not to obtain the Coke, to have something instead of. It's a little bit complex. So basically the experiment is this one. The monkeys, they learn that if they want something, they have to pay not drinking Coke, saving Coke, but they like very much Coke. So the experiment was that one. Basically, they shown the genitals to the males, the genitals of female in estrus during the excitation phase. And they pay a lot to see the picture of the genitals of the female. They pay with the Coke, not drinking the Coke. That's the experimental setting. So it's very interesting, the fact that it is like Pornhub or YouPorn or any kind of porn that you can have in your computer. So they are doing exactly as human. They do pay to see genitals, excited genitals of female. But even more interesting is the fact that they also pay to see the picture of the face of the so-called alpha woman, alpha female. Alpha female means top rank female, like famous actress, like divas, and so on. So they do pay. I have no idea how they recognize that this face is corresponding to a high rank female, but they do recognize very well. So they pay to have pictures of this. So this is also very, very interesting because it is, again, very, very human. So I prepared this cartoon, which was quite complex to prepare, comparing three kinds of monkeys. That one is called Pantroglodites, and it is the common chimpanzee, very, very common. That one is another chimpanzee, not so common, and it's called Pampaniscus or bonobo. The African name is bonobo. And this monkey is human. So what is very interesting when you are comparing these three animals is about the genes. What about the difference between the genes between the chimpanzee and the humans? The difference is about 7%. It means that 93% of our genes are identical to the chimpanzee. We are different from the chimpanzee just for 7%. 7%. But when we go to the Pampaniscus, to the bonobo, the dwarf chimpanzee, which is living in the center of Africa, the difference is even lower, is about 2%. 98% of our genes are identical to the bonobo, to this particular and fun chimpanzee. 98%. And what does it mean from a sexual perspective? What does it mean from the perspective of sexuality? All three animals are promiscuous. So the fidelity is not the unique strategy of those animals. It is promiscuous the Panthroglodytes, it is promiscuous the Pampaniscus, it is promiscuous the humans. Then, what about the baldness? The baldness, losing the hairs because of too much testosterone, is present only in bonobo and humans. The bonobo is kissing for romantic reasons, as we are doing. The chimpanzee is not able to do. The masturbation is present in the bonobo, is a clear masturbation, not something automatic. As well, they are using the missionary position. You know what the missionary position is? Is face-to-face sexual intercourse. All the animals are doing sex into the posterior position, while bonobo and humans, they are doing the missionary position, same position, exactly the same. They do practice the oral sex. They have homosexual individuals. They are making sex for policy. In other words, to increase the rank into the society. And we are doing the same, more or less. As well, they are making sex for bananas, for rewards, as we are sometimes doing sex for money or for something like that. So again, very, very similar to us. And also, they are able to have sex outside the ovulation, outside the fertile timing of the female, which is also unique because all the other animals are having sex only during the fertility time, also called estrus, of a female. So what is different between us and bonobos in the 3%, 2% of differences of genes? It's just that one. We are giving to sex a quite importance, quite a unique importance, because we consider sex as a reason to establish the couple, which is not present in the bonobo. The bonobo don't consider too much the couple. When they want to have sex, they have sex. They don't care who is the partner. They just enjoy sex. And for this reason, we are also producing the jealousy, which is typical of our species. The bonobos, they do not experience jealousy at all. They are very ecumenical. They don't care too much about the couple. So those are bonobos. As you can see, this is a female masturbating, and she is also able to use some instrument for masturbation, some tools. Those are bonobos who are, again, having sex. And it is fun to see that this gentleman, it looks like he's very happy for sex. And also it's nice to see the position because the female is in the top. They are kissing each other, and they have a very human, let's say, maternal behavior. So this is I don't know if you are familiar with this term. The term is allometry. Allometry means that it is a kind of science which is connecting the sides of one part of the body, is put in a relation with some kind of behaviors. So let's see what's happened when we are discussing about the differences between the various monkeys related to the sides of the penis and in particular the sides of the testes. This is another very interesting book. The name is The Rise and the Fall of the Third Chimpanzee. Who is the third chimpanzee? We are the third chimpanzee. Okay? So let's see which is the ratio between the testes and the body. When the ratio between the testes and the body is in favor of the testes, it means that that species is particularly promiscuous. Big testes means that the males have to compete with other males. They don't trust too much the female because the female can have more than one partner. So they need big balls, big testes, in order to compete with other males. So have a look on the gorilla. The gorilla is the big one, is a very virile. However, he has a very small testes compared to the size of the body. It means that the female of gorilla is not so interested to have too many partners. Some partners, but not so many. This is the chimpanzee. The ratio between the sides of the testes and the body is definitely the highest. So the testes are very high. And this is because the chimpanzee is very, very, very much promiscuous. They do not have any kind of couple. They don't consider the couple. So each male that want to win the race for the reproduction, want to have children, must have big testes in order to produce a lot of spermatozoa in order to compete with other males. So have a look where the men is, the humans are here, a little bit closer to the chimpanzee and quite far from the gorilla. It means that the project of the human testis is to compete quite a lot with other males for the success in reproduction. It means that biologically speaking, not culturally, biologically speaking, the female body can accept more than one semen in the 72 hours, which are typical of the survival of the sperms. And those sperms should compete with other sperms, other spermatozoa coming from another man. Very interesting from a perspective. And this is also fitting, this is a very interesting article published in Nature. It is also fitting with something like the mid-piece of the spermatozoa. You know what is the mid-piece? The mid-piece is where there are mitochondria, which means energy. So bigger mid-piece means more energy. The spermatozoa are running faster because they have more energy. And as you can see, the mid-piece of Homo sapiens, of humans, it is in between, exactly as the sides of the testes. It means that between the primates, between the monkeys, we are in between. Not too much unfaithful like the chimpanzee, but not too much faithful like the gorillas. So this is also a demonstration of what I said. So the Darwinian psychology, it is, or the Darwinian sexology, if you like, it is a new scientific perspective which is using the tool of the evolution in order to explain what are the sexual choices, the seduction between people, as well the eros, the excitation In other words, the Darwinian sexology is explaining, trying to explain the biological basis of the life itself. So, forget about the monkeys, and let's go to the rats. In that case, I wanted to introduce another animal, which is the prey wall. The prey wall is a rat, a kind of rat, but a unique one. He is living not in Africa like the bonobo, but he is living in the center of North America. And here are two hormones. Do somebody recognize those hormones? What are those hormones? Those molecules? It's a very difficult question. Nobody knows? It's oxytocin and vasopressin. Did you recognize it? Okay, good. You have to tell me. Okay, oxytocin and vasopressin. Very important hormones, because oxytocin is very important for plenty of reproductive reasons. It is important for the delivery, for the parturition. It is important for ejecting the milk from the breast during lactation. It is also important for the orgasm, female orgasm. It is also important for establishing the bond between the mother and the son. And it's very important to establish this early bond between the two. While vasopressin is also very important, but most probably related to the male behavior with respect to the children, to establish the paternity, the paternal bounds with respect to the children. So why the prayer wall is so interesting? Because it's one of the few animals very, very, very faithful. They like just one partner in the life, just on one single partner. And this is because of this particular situation, which is, this is an in situ hybridization showing into the brain the percentage of the receptors for oxytocin and vasopressin. And this is a comparison with what? With the normal rat, the polygamous one, not the prayer wall, but the normal rat. So here in this table is clear which are the differences. The prayer wall with high level of receptors as well of the ligand, oxytocin and vasopressin. They are very much monogamous, while the other one is totally promiscuous. They have both members of the family, father and mother, are taking care of the poops, are taking care of the children, while in the other animal, which is identical, the animal are identical. The unique difference is the amount of receptors for oxytocin and for vasopressin. This is the unique difference. The other animal, in the regular rat, the caregiver is only one, the female. The male doesn't care about the children, nor parental care from the male. Just the mother is taking care of the children. Furthermore, there is a kind of selective aggression, which means they dislike very much somebody who is coming in the house. They are building houses, very complex houses, like our houses, and they don't want anybody who is coming, no strangers, coming into the house, exactly as in your house. If you are looking at somebody who is unknown and is coming to your house, you are afraid and you want to push him away from your house. Exactly what the prayer wall is doing, while the other rat is not doing. He doesn't care who is coming into the house. So there is a huge difference, which is based on receptors and amount of the hormones oxytocin and vasopressin. But I wanted to demonstrate something using an experiment very, very interesting, which has been done. It is called the 3 chambers experiment. Basically, it is possible to study one male or one female of prey wall, having in these 2 different cages, there are 3 cages, 3 rooms, where there is an unknown animal, a stranger one, not known, and in the other chamber, there is the partner, like in this case, the wife. You can also study the female, and you can put here a stranger male, unknown male, and here the husband. The experiment is done in this way. This animal in the white cage can move freely from one cage to the other cage. The others are bound. They cannot move. They can stay only in one cage. So you can study the amount of time that those guys are spending in one room or in the other room, which is a very interesting demonstration of a scientific demonstration of the impact of oxytocin and vasopressin, as it is demonstrated in this experiment. Here is the time, the percentage of time the animal is spending. In this case, is a male animal, is spending in the black room, where is the wife. As you can see, 80% of time is spent with the wife. Just a little alone in the middle, in the white chamber. And he is going for very little exploration here in the chamber where there is an unknown girl, rat, actually. Let's say girl, okay? But if you are using a drug which is blocking the receptor for oxytocin or the receptor for vasopressin, the situation changed dramatically. As you can see, the time that this guy, the same guy, is spending with a wife is very low, less than 50%. The time that he is spending with the secretary is very high, is about 50%. So you modify dramatically in the same animal the sexual behavior. And this is occurring also for female. Again, similar situation. In that case, this is the normal situation, the control. She is spending a lot of time with the husband, a little bit more time alone. Female likes to stay alone. They may enjoy to stay alone. And just a very little time to go to see who is in the other room. She is not interested on who is in the other room. However, if you are blocking oxytocin receptor, the situation changes dramatically again. So she will stay a lot of time with the plumber and a little time with the husband. And has demonstrated here. And also, it is increased the time that she is alone, because sometimes females are a little bit confused on what to do. But anyway, they spend a lot of time with the stranger, with the other partner. So this is the demonstration that you can manipulate a sexual behavior, of course, in simple animals. I don't want to give you the idea that we can do the same in humans. If I'm using oxytocin, we have it, oxytocin, we can use it through the nose. There is no real changes in the sexual behavior because we are two complex animals. But the animals are very important because help us to understand a little a part of the story, in that case of the seduction. So I wanted to introduce another important gentleman, which is Ronald Fisher. He was the first psychologist who tried to use experimental models for psychology. He was a student of Darwin, and he was great in using the theory of the natural selection applied to the human behaviors as a psychologist. So it's completely different from Freud, from the other psychological studies, which are not so much based on science, but in that case, he tried to do the best for applying the scientific method to the human behaviors. So basically, Fisher was the first who was theorizing the idea of the sexual ornaments. What is a sexual ornament? The sexual ornament is something that animals and humans are using to seduce, to be attractive, to attract a possible partner, to be interesting for something else. Those are called sexual ornaments. So the idea of Fisher, Sir Ronald Fisher, was that a sexual ornament is selected. For example, let me explain into a clear way. If a baby is born by chance with a big horn in the front, okay? That baby is having a horn. That horn could be considered by the possible partner sexy or absolutely not sexy. In the case of the horn is not considered sexy, the horn disappears from the species because this poor guy will not reproduce himself. While vice versa, if the horn is appreciated and the female considers the horn very, very sexy, not only the horn remains into the species because it goes to the next generation and the next generation, but also there is a pressure to increase the size of the horn. This is called Fisherian runaway. It is a kind of run to have the sides of the horn bigger and bigger and bigger because girls like the horn. So who is having the biggest horn is having more chances to reproduce. However, what Fisher discovered is that at one time, there is a kind of plateau. The horn cannot be too big because when it's too big, this is harming the animal. The animal or the individual cannot survive with such a big horn, even if it is sexy. So basically the idea of Fisher is that there is a kind of curve like that one, increase, increase, increase. The sexual ornament could be the mammals, could be the teeth, could be the size of the penis, could be the height, could be the skin, any kind of sexual ornament. But it goes until a plateau and cannot go up. Otherwise, there is a reduction in the survival, which is absolutely not good. So this is the idea of the runaway positive feedback, which is applied to the sexual ornaments. And this is the demonstration of the Fisherian runaway theory using the Drosophila, which is an animal where it's very easy to study the modification, is a little mosquito, the sexual modification. So if there is some modification which is considered sexy, that modification is going very fast. It is increasing the size very fast, but up to a plateau. At the plateau, there is no possibility to go ahead to increase more that size. Then there is another thing that I wanted to introduce, which is very, very complex. So I need your attention because it's not easy to understand. These two guys, Amos and Avish Zahavi from Israel, they wrote this very, very interesting book. And they said that a sexual ornament, usually a male sexual ornament, to work very well, to be very sexy, should be an handicap, which is absolutely a nonsense. I will show you the handicap that I'm talking about. But so this is, I need your trust. Trust me for a moment, and then I will demonstrate what I mean with handicap. A sexual ornament to be very sexy should be an handicap. The idea of Zahawi is that if I have this handicap and I survive despite the handicap, it means that my genes are very good. It means that if you are selecting me, the genes that I will give to your child, to your children, will be very strong, very, very good. So keep in mind the idea of what the handicap is. A sexual ornament should be an handicap to demonstrate that that individual is able to survive despite the presence of the handicap. And the sexual ornament is, remember, something which is considered very sexy. Sexy and handicap. And I will demonstrate what I mean with those. So those are typical sexual ornaments from different civilizations, from different way. You can really realize that those which are being considered sexy at that time, maybe not now. This is very fun because it is a typical Italian soldier. And those guys, still now, they are using this funny hat with these ridiculous things into the hat. And they goes in the battle with this hat. This hat has been considered very, very sexy for the Italian girls in the past century. Not now. No, now nobody considers it at the same time. But it has been considered very sexy. But why it is an handicap? It is an handicap because if you go into the battle with this hat in your head, it means, shut me, I am here. So the enemy will find you very easily. It means that if this guy survives to the battle, he is very smart, despite the handicap, despite the presence of this handicap. And also, this is another typical handicap. This is sexy. This is very interesting from a sexual perspective, but if you are living in a cold region, for example, this could be very risky. You can get pneumonia using this kind of dressing. But this again means I survived despite those ornaments, sexy ornaments. It means that I am very good and I have very good genes. Okay, so this is the theory of the sexual ornament. This one is also even more clear. You know, this is a terrible use that is used, I think, in Birmania or something like that, in the south of Asia, where the girls are using those neck rings in order to transform the neck. And this is considered also tremendously sexy. Only the girls who are having this huge, long neck are married. Without that one, they are not marrying. But this is a huge handicap. Can you believe how risky it is to live with those rings on the neck? So, typical demonstration of it. So now let's go to explain another things, very important. The sexual ornaments are useful for two types of competition. One competition is within the same gender. It is called intrasexual or intergender competition. It means that some ornaments are important to compete male to male, female to female. It's a kind of competition between the same gender. I'm not talking about homosexuality. I'm talking about general issues. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that I will deal mostly on heterosexual relationship, not in the homosexual relationship in this time. The other sexual ornament is useful to compete with the other gender. Male with female, female with male. So, you know this animal, this is a deer. How the deer are making sex? Do you have an idea? The deers are making sex by competing male to male. There is a huge competition, and who is having the biggest score is the winner, because he's able to face, to compete with the other males, sometimes to kill them, sometimes not. But the sides of the horns, which is a sexual ornament, which is very, very sexy for the deers, the sides of the horns means the reproductive success. It means that that animal is reproducing. What about the others? Zero reproduction, no sex for all the life. Little horn, no sex. Big horns, sex for all the female of the branch. It's called alpha male. The alpha male is who is the unique one who is having sex. Okay? It is quite a good strategy, that one, because the best is reproducing. The others, low rank, low genes, low characteristics, are not reproducing. So the species is advancing. Okay? Seems good, but it's not so much. Because in the reality, the horns of the deer are at very, very high risk. If you are living as a deer is living into the forest, any little tree may block you with this big horn, and you can be predated, you can be eaten by the very small wolf which is coming in the forest. So having a big horn means a lot of risk. So which is the biological message in the horns? If I survived with those big horns, it means that I have good genes. So it's not the real point is not the competition between male to male. But the real point is that the winner is who survived despite the big horns. So that's the theory of the handicap. And of course, this model is the model that can be used in order to understand what means intragender competition. There is somebody who wanted to suggest me which kind of part of the human body can be used for intrasexual competition or intragender competition, which is the part of the human body that is commonly used for the competition between male to male, female to female, or which one is used for the competition with the other gender. Who wanted to, pardon me? Eyes. Breast. Juan said breast. Okay. Let's talk about the breast. Do you think that breast is sexy? Okay, it is. Do you think that the breast is important for intragender competition or for intergender competition? In other words, the breast is used to seduce the other gender or for competing with the other females? Which is your idea? Which of the two? Both. It's not both. So the majority here is female, so you can have an idea about it. Okay, it has been done an experiment in the plastic surgery, in the aesthetic surgery. So they asked the women, the girls who wanted to have a surgery for breast, usually increase of the size of the breast. And they asked them, why you wanted to have that surgery? What do you expect? They can say. You can expect that they wanted to have an increase in the size of the breast because, for example, to have more partners, or to have more beautiful boys, or to increase in the social rank. No, 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 no. The first reason for having a better breast, the first answer is for myself, which means, translated, to compete with my friends. Another typical sexual ornament that Professor Bach knows very well because he studied with a very important article published some years ago about the size of the penis. The size of the penis. Do you think the size of the penis is an ornament, sexual ornament? Yes, it is. Size matters, definitely. But it is important for intersexual or intersexual competition. It is important for having more girls or for male competition, male-to-male competition. What do you think? Juan said male-to-male because he has been... That's also possible, but in the natural way, you can see the penis. Okay. So, in the reality, again, the experiments are demonstrating that the size of the penis is much important for the male for competing with the other males than to compete to have more girlfriends. And this is demonstrated when I have a patient who is coming to my office asking, doctor, I want your second opinion. I'm not a urologist, so I'm not doing any surgery. So they went to my office, they asked me, I wanted to increase my penis size. What do you think? I think that you think that it is a good operation that I can go through. So I'm making a bad joke to the patient. I'm telling to the patient, well, it is possible to have only one kind of operation. One is increasing the size of the penis in resting condition. The other one is very good to increase the size of the penis in the erection when you will have sex. Which one do you prefer? To have a bigger penis in the rest position when you are in the shower, in the gym, or in the swimming pool, or when you are in the bedroom with your girlfriend? 100% the first, in resting condition. This is the demonstration that the size of the penis, it is definitely something very important for intrasexual competition. So let's go to another animal to better explain what I mean with an handicap.
Stick this.
Okay, thank you. What I mean with an handicap. This is the case of another animal, the peacock. Do you know how the peacock are making sex? The male is showing the tail, the very, very beautiful tail, with a lot of colors, and he's also dancing, showing the tail. And what the female are doing, they are surrounding the grass. It is technically called the lek. They are surrounding the lek. They are watching. They are smoking a cigarette. They are drinking a mojito. I don't know. They are discussing each other who is the best. Guys showing the beautiful tail. And only the alpha female, the high rank female, is deciding to pick up the most beautiful one, and then the others. So the tail of the peacock is definitely a sexual ornament. However, if you are a peacock, and if you have this long tail, you are unable to fly, you do not have any kind of defense against the predators. So any stupid cat can arrive putting the leg like this one, eating you because of the long tail. So the long tail is not just beautiful. The long tail means I survived despite my long tail. So this is a typical representation of what means a sexual ornament, what means a handicap. It's not just beautiful. It's not just sexy, but it's carrying a very important biological message, which is good genes. I survived until now because I have good genes. So very interesting perspective. And this experiment is also very interesting because it's demonstrating that the level of testosterone in deers are related to the size of the horns, but also inversely related to the resistance to the parasites. So in other words, more testosterone, more horns, more chances to reproduce, but also lower resistance to the parasites. It means that despite this handicap, that individual survived having good genes to do it. Okay, now let's go to another animal, which is the human. And in particular, we are talking about the erection. And we have to face a kind of tragical, tremendous, incredible Darwinian paradox. The Darwinian paradox is that one. For the Darwinian perspective, anything which is related to reproduction must be very protected, very safe, very effective, very, very affordable, very reliable. It is the case of the human erection. I'm afraid not. The human erection is just an opinion. It can be present, it can be absent. Nobody can have an erection like I'm moving my arm. Nobody is controlling the erection. The erection in humans, which is the mechanism for the reproduction, we need the erection for the reproduction, is totally unpredictable. And this is absolutely strange. It is very, very strange. In fact, we tried to understand why we have this particular situation, which is apparently the unique one. Because I don't know if you know, almost all the animals, the dog that you have at home, the cat that your grandmother is feeding, they do have a bone into the penis. Do you know that we do not have this bone? I think that you know. We lost the penis bone. We lost what is called baculum. That's the technical name of this bone. And that one is the bone of the chinchilla, 12 millimeters. That one is the bone of the coyote. I think that by chance, oh, wow, I have a bone of the coyote in my pocket. Is that one? Incredible, but I do have it. It's not so big, but it is a real bone. And trust me, it's working very well to have an erection. And that bone is also having the insertion for the muscles. And it could be absolutely used exactly as any other part of the body having a bone by voluntary control. So let's go to the others. This is your dog, or the dog that sometimes you are eating. This is the macaque. This one, the sea lion. The elephant, apparently is big, but it's not so big because the elephant is very big. So 30 centimeters of bone is a little one. But it's enough. It's something. It's better than nothing. This one is the walrus. It's a big one. And in fact, the Inuit population, they are using this bone as the representation of the power. Only the chief of the village can handle this bone because it's the representation of the real power, a big one. So the bone is present everywhere. Only the rabbits, they do not have the bone, but the rabbits are doing sex as rabbits, like this one. So the baculum, we tried to understand this because this is completely irrational. Biologically speaking, we cannot really say why we lost that bone. The bone is so important that it is a nonsense from a Darwinian perspective that we lost it. So we tried to make a hypothesis in order to explain why we lost this very useful bone. Again, this is the chimpanzee, the bonobo, and the Homo sapiens. This is the penis size, and both the monkeys, they do have the bone. It is a little, but useful, because the erection is moved by muscles controlled by the brain. Very, very useful. We do not have any bone, I'm afraid. So we tried to produce our own idea to explain why we lost this very important bone, this very important baculum. The idea is that not having the bone, which is definitely an handicap, is very, very useful for the species. And the demonstration is that one. When you have the bone, the erection is mechanical, is under the voluntary control. When you don't have the bone, the erection is not always present when you want to have it, and erection is completely outside the control of the brain. The brain is not able to order to the penis to have an erection. So have a look on this list, a boring list of diseases. Cancer, vascular diseases, hormonal diseases, immunological, neurological, urological, psychiatric, psychological, iatrogenic diseases. So this is the table of content of your book of pathology. Almost all the diseases are listed here. But this is not the list, the table of content of your book of pathology. Those are the causes of erectile dysfunction. Those are the reasons why we do not have the erection. In other words, if the erection is present without the bone, they are not those diseases. Systemic, vascular, endocrine, metabolic, immunological, but also psychological, environmental, like stress, for example. Having an erection without the bone means that the environment is good. The partner that you have in the bed is good. You like it. Could be male, could be female, could be both. You are not under alcohol. You are not under drugs. You are not under poisons. So in other words, the lack of the bone, it is definitely a huge handicap, but at the same time, it is the perfect demonstration that the individual who is having the erection, he is healthy, physically healthy, psychologically healthy, psychiatrically healthy, environmentally healthy, relationally healthy. And this is the miracle that occurred when we lost the bone. So in our species, the unique one, the erection is a wonderful marker of a phenotypic condition. If the erection is there, if the erection is present, you can be sure that the patient, the subject, is not having any vascular, endocrine, neurological, immunological, oncological, systemic, toxicological, psychiatric, environmental, intrapsychic, and relational problems. There is no one single symptom, no one single cue in our body that is so able to show the presence of so many diseases. Internal, external, environmental, relational, everything. And that miracle was because we lost the bone. So now you understood very well what I mean with a sexual handicap. It is definitely the erection a sexual ornament. We need it to reproduce. We need to enjoy sex. We need to stay together. But at the same time, it is the representation of the health of the individual itself. So let's confront and then make a comparison with the peacock. What the peacock is doing, he is attracting with the tail, and only the fittest individual can afford the handicap of having the large tail. But what about the man? In that case, only the fittest man can obtain the optimal erection because he is physically, psychologically, psychiatrically, and toxicologically healthy. And this is absolutely unique. So this is the what's happened with the common ancestor, with the baculum. The unhealthy males may also reproduce because they have an erection just by the voluntary mechanism, exactly as I'm moving my leg, my arm. While in our species, where we do not have the baculum, we lost the baculum, only healthy males, very healthy males, are able to reproduce, and they have to do it into a non-hostile environment. In fact, if the environment is hostile, is negative, is dangerous, the erection is not present. It means from an adaptive perspective, a very good mechanism, because it is not smart to reproduce when the environment is at risk. So this is one typical strategy that the animals are using. They are making a tournament, male to male, for example, like the intragender competition. Only the winner is reproducing. The loser, also called the beta individual, is not reproducing. So the best genes are transferred to the future generation, and there is a not so good pre-zygotic, which means before the creation of the zygote, before the creation of the embryo, selection. This is our strategy. We lost the baculum. The erection is an opinion. Only the healthy individual is able to have an erection to reproduce. The sick individual is not reproducing because it's not having the erection. The environment plays a major role, because into an hostile environment, you will not have an erection. And this is a very efficient pre-zygotic selection. So basically, the loss of the baculum has been a really powerful factor for the pre-zygotic selection. And because of the loss of the baculum, the sexual dysfunction in general, the erectile dysfunction in particular, are to be considered, as I said before in the book, The Canine and Coal Mine, a wonderful biomarker of non-communicable chronic diseases. But what about female? Human female, they do have a bone in the clitoris. I don't think so, if I remember well. But in the animal, there is. There is a little bone also in the clitoris. The name is baculum. So this is also very interesting, the presence of that bone in the female. Because you should agree with me that the clitoris is not important for reproduction. It is important for enjoying sex, but not for reproduction itself. If you have the clitoris or you don't have the clitoris, the reproduction occurs in the same way. So from a Darwinian perspective, the presence of the baculum, which is the bone in the clitoris, is not so important, while the baculum is very important for the reproduction. So do you know that our body, I mean, my body, it is a female body which has been transformed during my fetal life into a male shape, more or less, male shape because of the presence of one gene which is called SSY, because of the presence of testosterone, because of the presence of testosterone receptors. Without any of those things that I mentioned, SRY, testosterone, receptors for testosterone, I will become female. So the default model is a female. We are all female here. Some of us are transformed in male during the fetal life, but the default model is the female one. So I elaborated this theory that basically was the female who lost the baculum, the baculum. And for this reason, we lost the baculum. So in other words, my theory is that one, for a random mutation, the female of our species lost the baculum because the baculum is useless. There is no reason to have it. And it happens quite frequently. For example, do you know that we lost the tail? We do not have the tail. We have some little bones which are the ancestor of the tail in our sacral part of our body, but we do not have the tail because the tail for us is useless. So we lost it. And this could be exactly the same for the baculum, that it has been lost by chance because it was useless. And since the baculum must be the transformation of the baculum because of the presence of testosterone, we can say that we lost the baculum because female lost the baculum. But that mutation for male was very, very, very advantageous. The advantage is because, as I said, only the fitting individuals may reproduce, may have the erection. So basically, the loss of the baculum is having a very strong power for the pre-zygotic selection. And also, we have to say that there are several studies, this is also in Nature, showing how the bone, the baculum, is under control of the androgen receptor in the animals which are having that bone. Female face, which is more feminine, more close to the female face. But when she is ovulating, when she is producing the egg in the middle of the cycle, she prefers a more masculine face. So in the first case, the strategy is that one we call the promise. The first strategy. Female face, female shape means I am good. I am a good man. I will protect you. I am more similar to you. But when she is ovulating, she needs good genes. So her interest is into the healthy baby, healthy one. So now I want to demonstrate what the beauty is. We used 4 different pictures of 4 ladies and girls from Italy, which have one single characteristic, a universal one. They are normal people, not particularly beautiful, not particularly not beautiful, absolutely normal. The experiment is that one. With the computer, you can merge all these 4 pictures together, producing a synthetic face, a new face, which is the mathematical mix of all the 4 faces. So it's just a mathematical calculation, putting the faces together and producing a new face. Look at what's happened when we are collecting these 4 pictures together with the computer, creating a new one, a synthetic one, which is simply the sum of these 4 faces. This is the result, which is the characteristic of this one, of this new face. Do you agree that she is more beautiful? Do you agree that she is more beautiful with respect to the other 4? So what is the beauty? The beauty is the ability of our brain to make a calculation between all the faces that the brain solves in its life. When you are closer to the average face, you have a more beautiful face. So the face is just a matter of calculation. The beauty of the face is just a matter of the calculation, of the average. It's something which is very, very mathematical. And if you have a very powerful computer, better than ours, because the calculation is very strong, like a parrot did, you will have a face which is much, much more beautiful. That synthetic face is very important because this face does not exist. So it's not related to anything that you saw in your life. It's just the average of those 4 faces. But what we can do, what you can do, is to modify the shape of this face, making it more masculine or more feminine, which technically is called dimorphism. Dimorphic is something which is different from the other sex. For example, I have a mustache. Mustache is a dimorphic characteristic because in the majority of the cases of the girls here in this room, they are not a mustache. So this is a dimorphic characteristic. So we can modify the face. We can produce a face more or less dimorphic using both male and female. So the experiment that we did is with 14 frames. This is the middle one, not modified, just obtained by mixing 4 different pictures, okay? And those are completely modified. This is the number 1, this is the number 14, and this is the number 7 in the middle. So you will have 14 faces to say which one is the most beautiful for you. As you can see, this man is more masculine than this one, which is more feminine. But this is the same, you can do exactly the same with the female face. You can make the female face more feminine or more masculine. So the joke, the experiment actually that we did is exactly that one. We are going to the people, asking to the people, can you tell me which one you prefer for one short night, for enjoying one night? Or which one is the face that you prefer for all the life? 2 questions. So remember that those frames are 14, not 3. 14, 1 4. They didn't. So that was the demonstration of how the morphing could be very important to show what the beauty is. So we published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine 10 years ago this experiment, which was very interesting because it was comparing transsexual people, heterosexual female, heterosexual male, homosexual male, trying to understand what is more beautiful for them, more masculine, more feminine. So let's concentrate on, in this case, on heterosexual female. Basically, this is the 0, means no too much female, not too much male. This one is super male, interest, super male face. This one is super female face. Super male feminilized. So what happened? For the short-term interaction, one night after the disco, okay, just for one night, the interest is mostly into the testosterone region, into the male, super male phase. But when they have to decide unconsciously, because when you are looking at the different frames of the 14 frames, you cannot distinguish the frame number 7 from the same number 8, or the same number 2 from the same number 3. It's almost impossible. So it's something which is below the cortex. It's something unconscious. The choice of female due for the long-term interaction, it is within the most female phase, which means protection, which means attention, which means a lot of things. And this was true, as I told you, either in Western female as well in Oriental female. It has been used, the Japanese model. So what is also tremendously interesting is the fact that we replied the same experiment with the girl in pregnancy, at the end of the pregnancy. And the same questions. What about one night? What about the life? The choice of female was completely under the estrogen environment. Very, 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 very feminilized face. Interest. Only that one. They don't care about testosterone. They just want to have a protection. No rude male. No interest of it, but just protection, like the feminilized face is showing. So it is very interesting because it is the first time that it has been demonstrated a strong impact of the hormones, and in particular of the hormones of the pregnancy, modifying the interest, the sexual interest of female into the male faces. Okay, now I need your help because I'm going to show you a clinical case. But you must help me to solve this clinical case. The story is that one. It's a true story. There is a strange animal, which is that one, which is living in the desert of Africa. That spider is living into an environment where is no food. This animal is having another characteristic that Professor Bach knows very well. He's affected by delayed ejaculation. He is very slow in ejaculating. The strategy that those animals are using for having sex is a particular one. During the sex, the female is eating nyam, 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 the male. Not like other animals, other insects, where the male is killed after the intercourse. Like sometimes some girls want to do with the partner when the partner is not so good. In that case, that spider, she's eating him during the intercourse. I need your help in order to explain this strategy. What does it mean from a Darwinian perspective? What does it mean according to everything that you learn until now from our lesson of today? Who wanted to try to explain this strange strategy? It is a very, very, very successful strategy. Well, not for male, because the male poor guy is eaten, but for the species is very great. So tell me which is the purpose, make an hypothesis, have the courage to explain why. Who wanted to try to try? There is no prize, no winner.
Thank you for your very interesting cases. I think I may not true, but I have my idea. So we are in the environment of a desert. So there is a lack of food. So I think the female spider needs food for pregnancy. So maybe her partner is a present of like the wedding gift. So during intercourse, she eat her partner to have more energy and food for her pregnancy. That is my idea. I don't know whether it is true or not.
This hypothesis is wonderful. It's really great. It's fantastic, but it's not complete.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, there is something that we should add. You are completely right. This is what we call the proximal explanation, the very close explanation. But it's not enough in order to explain why this guy is sacrificing himself for the survival of the species. There is another deep message which is inside this strange behavior. Is somebody who wanted to tell me?
I think the meaning of the reproduction is to pass down the gene of the male to their baby. So if he not sacrifice himself, so the baby do not have a chance to take his gene to another generation.
So Dr. Quant gave us another very nice, wonderful, possible explanation, which is not enough. Who wanted to try? Okay, you are studying medicine and you are studying psychology. So the first duty of a doctor, both in medicine and in psychology, is to listen to the patient. You did not listen to the patient. When I was talking, when I was presenting the clinical case, I told you something that you completely missed. This animal is affected by delayed ejaculation. What means delayed ejaculation? It means that if I am fat as I am, I will have the time to deposit my semen into the female because she is spending a lot of time to eat me. If I am thin, I will be not able to ejaculate in time and to fecundate her. She will hit me and I will not able to ejaculate because I have delayed ejaculation. But what does it mean from an adaptive mechanism? It means that if I am fat and I was, as you correctly said, and I survived having so much food into the desert, what does it mean? It means that my genes are wonderful, very strong, very good, because I got food, which was not the same for the poor, thin guy who was maybe sexy, but totally unable to fecundate because he was not smart enough to get so much food to be fat. So this is the typical representation of what doesn't mean the self-please gene and the handicap of the sexual ornaments. In those animals, being fat means being very smart, means having very good genes, ability to survive with respect to the environment, the hostile environment. More fat means more time to ejaculate, because he is affected by delayed ejaculation. So this clinical case is, I hope that you will remember in the future when you will be doctor or psychologist, the need to listen to the patient. Each word which is coming from the patient is tremendously important. And nobody here was able to really remember what I said. I said just once, of course, in order to make it more difficult for you to remember it. But I told you that animal is characterized by delayed ejaculation. He needs a lot of time to ejaculate. More fat, more time. More fat, more good genes. So it is definitely a very, very smart strategy, which is giving the reward of the reproduction only to the very, very good genes, only to the very, very good individuals. So in that case, the wedding gift is not just the body of the male, which, as you correctly said, is very important for the survival of the pregnancy. But the winner of the race to deposit the semen is definitely the fattest. Of course, I like it very much because of my belly. This story is for me a kind of great situation. And this is the guy. This is the real one. The real animal that I was describing in the past. So it exists really. It's not something which I created by myself. Let's go ahead if possible. It's not working. Okay, now it's working. Okay, now let's go to the female strategy. How she can seduce. How are the strategies that she is using to seduce? So basically, the female seduction is very much related to an endocrinological aspect, which is quite unique of our species, which is this graph. What is this graph? This is the fertility rate in our species. We have the peak of the fertility rate about 20 years. And in fact, this is the time where she is more seducing, more interesting for males. And then there is a decline of the seduction, but that decline is decline in the fertility rate. So in other words, the evolution in men was that one, to be able to judge the fertility rate that we call beauty of the possible partner. The sound of the selfish gene into the male brain is telling, let's go to young girls, let's find very reproductive girls because I need to go into the next generation. This is the hidden signal. This is the secret signal which is working into the brain of the male. And in fact, also in the primitive civilizations, what the girls were doing, they use tricks. And which is the purpose of the trick? To appear younger. There is no other purpose of the makeup. The makeup is to appear as more young as possible because the male selfish genes want to interact with somebody who is endocrinologically healthy. Young enough to have the peak of fertility. And in fact, if you go to the matrimonial advertisements that Ellen Fisher was describing many years ago in the newspaper, of the American newspaper, she found those terms used the most frequently in those advertisements. The girls or ladies were talking about the youth, about the beauty, about the forms. In other words, or something which is very much related to the reproductive health. Consciously or unconsciously, they are talking about reproductive health. I saw with my eyes one advertisement when I was in Bethesda, in the Washington Post, one advertisement where it was written, 90-year-old young-looking lady is searching for a partner. So she was 90-year-old, and she was describing herself young-looking. So demonstrating how much this is consciously or unconsciously present in the way the female are describing themselves. And look at this face. That face is that one of parrot. I used 4 frames, 4 pictures. He used 16 pictures to obtain this face. As you can see, this is very, very beautiful girl. Does not exist. It's a synthetic. It's just a mix of 16 frames. So parrot, that here is quoted, but also the recent research demonstrated that what we consider beautiful is the intermediacy. Intermediacy means being average, being the mathematical average between the different faces, but also the symmetry. We already discussed about the neoteny, as well the dimorphism. Dimorphism, again, is the difference between the male and female face. So usually people male don't like to match the female face with a big mustache, because this is a dimorphic character. But what about the symmetry, which is very interesting point. The symmetry is a representation of health. More symmetrical the face, more health, very likely. However, our faces are not symmetrical. What I would like to ask you for tonight, when you are at home, you can do male and female, it's the same, is to take a little mirror. You know, the small mirror that the ladies have in the pocket, the one that you are using for the makeup, like that one, okay? A small one. Exactly that one, exactly. But you have to, not this one, because this is round. Can you show to the people what we are talking about? Okay, that one. But you have to use a squared one. And you have to put here in your nose, like this one. And you have to look into the mirror of your bathroom, the big one, okay? So you will see a face that you never saw in your life. The face that you will see is completely different from your face. You are all beautiful girls. But probably the face that you will see, this is the same for male, the face that you will see is more beautiful. In the majority of the cases, is even more beautiful than your very beautiful face, because it is completely symmetrical. And you can also make a reverse. You can put the mirror in this way, and you will see another face. So you have 3 faces. 2 of them you don't know, you never saw in your life. One is your real one. The other one is the symmetrical left. The other one is the symmetrical right. And these 3 faces are completely different. Usually, but not always. The symmetrical face is more beautiful. Usually, but not always, as I will demonstrate in this experiment. Do you know this girl who is? She is a Marilyn Monroe, the super diva, the super beautiful girl, the dream of any man in the world in the past century, okay? So she is considered tremendously beautiful. So I did with her the same experiment. I simply cut her face to make it symmetrical, and I make it double, okay? I duplicated that face. Look at what's happened when I'm duplicating the faces of Marilyn Monroe. She's not so beautiful. The previous one was more beautiful. When I'm going to the other part of the face, I'm moving the mirror, so I'm cutting for the other face. It's even less beautiful. So this means that all the biological aspects cannot work 100% of the cases. Otherwise, the species and the heart will not survive. all the biological issues cannot work 100%. As in the case of Marilyn Monroe, when she's asymmetrical, she's much less beautiful than the real face. So I'm curious how many of you tonight will go at home and trying to use the mirror to understand if the regular one, the symmetrical one, is more beautiful or less beautiful. And you will see the majority of the cases I told you will be more beautiful, but completely different. Another person, a completely different person. Okay, so what about the choices of the male for the female face? What the male want, which is the female face that they want. They want a female face very dimorphic, very different from the male one, or they want a more masculine face, like that one. Both are actresses. These are a beautiful actress and not so great as actress. This one is one of the giants in the Shakespearean theater, okay? But the male preference is completely here, in this part of the story, both for one night as well for all the life. So they are selecting, the males are selecting a very dimorphic face, which is a completely different strategy from the female choice. And what is very, very interesting, we may develop next year when we may talk about homosexuality, male homosexuals are following exactly the same strategy of the male heterosexual. Of course, for the interest for the male face, not for the female one. But female is not seducing just by the face. She is seducing also by the body, by the shape of the body. So one great scientist, Devendra Sait from India, he was working in the United States, was making a kind of very interesting experiment. He used these silhouettes of girls without face, I mean, with identical face, where the face is not different, but changing the waist to hip ratio. And he discovered, asking to those Indians in Mato Grosso, Brazil, who are being never exposed to media, to internet, television, newspaper, journals, anything, movies, nothing. This is the unique part of the world where the people are supposed to be absolutely natural. And he went to those guys asking, making those silhouettes with a different hip to waist ratio. Which one is more sexy for you? Which one do you like more? And they said the ratio 0.69 is the most sexy, exactly as the judge of Miss American and Miss Universe did in the last 70 years. The top part of the body, the breast, is changing according to the culture, according to the timing, but the waist to hip ratio is always constant, always the same. It is considered the most sexy one. It is considered the closest to the ratio 0.7. So now we have another duty to go home and to measure your waist to hip ratio, to know how much of your body is sexy. But be careful, because as close as you are at 2.7, more fertility is present. So in other words, the man, the primitive man, or the judge of Miss America and Miss Universe, who are judging the female body, are doing a kind of endocrinological judgment. They are judging, they are deciding if she unconsciously, if she is good in producing baby. He doesn't know, of course, but it is exactly what he is doing. And again, Marilyn Monroe, her ratio, forgetting about the first one, which is in green, but look at the 2, 60 and 90, which is the ratio is 0.66, very close to 0.7. It means that we consider that body tremendously sexy. And remember, this one is the best disposition of fat for having a pregnancy, to maintain the pregnancy, and to feed the baby. If you are going too up or too down in this ratio, your fertility rate is decreasing. Your ability to maintain the pregnancy is decreasing. Your ability to lactate the babies is decreasing also. And this is the scientist that I was mentioning, the Vendra site, who was playing with the Barbies. Do you have a Barbie here in Vietnam? Do you use Barbies sometimes? Yes or not? Yes. This is bad. This is very bad because Barbie is having an hip to waist ratio completely wrong. It's not natural. It is the American Psychologists Association wrote an article to clarify that the model of Barbie is producing disturbances, psychological disturbances, or even psychiatric disturbances like anorexia. Because many girls may grow up considering Barbie as a model, which is a completely unnatural model. So the waist to hip ratio of Barbie is not natural, it's just wrong, it's just not healthy. And it has been demonstrated that this is one of the reasons why anorexia is really growing in our society. So my suggestion, if you have children, not to give them Barbie, because the original one is with a very, very dangerous waist to hip ratio, which is a model for the babies completely wrong. But the Vendra was playing with the different Barbies, but some French group tried to do again the same experiment. You know, the French believes that the God speaks French and that anything which is not French is zero. So they replied the experiments. So they confirmed, they found exactly the same. They demonstrated that the waist to hip ratio is correlated very much with the sex appeal, with the attractiveness. But they also demonstrated that there is another parameter which is also well working, which is the body mass index. You know what is the body mass index? It's the ratio between the height and the weight. And it is a wonderful demonstration of what? Of health. So in other words, as close as you are to this number, to this ratio between the height and the weight, so which is the body mass index, you are more healthy. And you are more sexy. So what the man is doing when he is judging the body of a female, he is doing the job of an endocrinologist. He is telling to himself, okay, she is very good for reproduction. She is very healthy. Of course, he doesn't know. Nobody knows. But it's true. It is exactly what is happening when we are judging the female body. Okay, and this is the differences between the male and female bodies, and here in the middle is in fact what we consider the most beautiful and most sexy. And those are the dimorphic shapes of the male and female bodies. So Devendra was criticized by the French, but before to die, because he died recently, before to die, he was able to reply his experiment using magnetic resonance, functional magnetic resonance, and he won because he published in PLOS ONE that when the male brain is looking at a female body close to 0.7, the reward areas of the brain, the dopaminergic areas of the brain are lighting. So there is also a neurobiological capacity of the male brain to obtain a reward when he is looking to a close to 0.7 female body. Very interesting, is it? Then there is another thing that we can say about the female seduction. Of course, we went to the Tinder again to see how she is describing herself. And what is very interesting, very strange, but even terrible for somehow, is the fact that she is not frequently showing in her profile the level of education. Do you have an idea why? Because usually the men are stupid and they are afraid of a too intelligent lady, a too intelligent partner. So consciously or unconsciously, the female are not too much mentioning the education level, while vice versa, the males are also lying in the education. Like, for example, I can describe myself as I am very beautiful, I am very young, and I am director of the university. Nothing is true, but I can describe like this one, because this is increasing the possibility of her to select me. Then when she will see me, she will go away, of course, but this is how I may describe myself. What is very interesting is the fact that she is not too much describing her education, because she doesn't want, consciously or unconsciously, she doesn't want to make him afraid to deal with somebody who is more intelligent, as usually happens, than him. Very, very interesting. Those are evidences. So it is matter of evidence, no question about that the males are describing their own education, females are not describing their own education. Last part of our talk. We are going to the very last. I know that you are tired, you have been very kind in following me. Now we have to deal with the issue of fidelity and infidelity. I wanted to quote this article from the New York Times, which appeared many years ago. And the sentence, I think, is very interesting. The sentence says that we are biologically created from the evolution, from the Darwinian psychology, to go in love, to fall in love. But unfortunately, we are not designed to remain in love. So the love could be something which could change during the years. And now I need your philosophical attention, because my thesis is that we are the unique animal having exactly the same biological advantage to be very monogamous and to be completely unfaithful. Identical advantages. Being monogamous means to protect the babies, to protect the family, and to help the selfish gene to go ahead. Being non-monogamous means to select more genes, to have more biological possibilities, which is also very good from a biological perspective. So do you remember from your studies in the college what is a vector? Vector is a sign that is used in mathematical sciences. It's a kind of arrow. So the two arrows, the two vectors are identical. That one of fidelity with that one of infidelity. But they do have opposite directions. So what's happened when two vectors are with the same length but opposite direction, which is the final end? 0. And in fact, we are the unique animal in this planet able to choose. Completely free to say, I want to be faithful. I don't want to be faithful. I want to be monogamous. I don't want to be monogamous. We do not have hormones which are pressing us like all the other animals. Like, do you remember the prayer wall I mentioned before at the beginning? They have the oxytocin, they have the vasopressin, which are pushing the animal to be faithful or not to be faithful. We are the unique animal completely free. The hormones, the biology, the genes are not pushing us in one direction instead of the other. We can do what we want. We can stay with our partner for all our life, which is very advantageous from the selfish gene perspective. We may say that we want to have a new partner each week, which is also very good for the selfish gene. And both advantages are biologically equals. And this is very important also from a philosophical perspective, because no one can tell, I am monogamous because my nature is to be monogamous. It's not true. No one can tell you, I am unfaithful because my hormones are pushing me to be unfaithful. It's not true. What is really true is the fact that we are, again, the unique animal completely free to choose, to select what to do with sex, with a couple, with a partner, or with the partners. And this is really unique. And this is because the advantages, the biological advantages of being monogamous are identical to those of being non-monogamous. So basically, we are following two different pressures. One is the need for stability, to stay in couple, to be stable, to protect our offsprings, to protect our children. Very important pressure. But also, everybody should agree that the sexual variety is very sexy, is very interesting, is very important. But those pressures are identical. That's the reason why I called our species the unique species, monogamous, unfaithful. Because we cannot be classified between the monogamous species, like some birds, like the prayer wall. We cannot be classified as unfaithful species like the bonobo, like the chimpanzee. We are the unique one which is monogamous, unfaithful. But there are differences into the male and female interest in having multiple partners. Let's start with the male, which is easy to understand. It is a matter of fact that the male is producing a huge number of spermatozoa. And the number of spermatozoa that each man is producing, not in the life, but in one single ejaculation, if he is healthy, is enough to fecundate the entire population of United States in one single ejaculation. Okay? In one single ejaculation, a healthy young man is potentially able to fecundate all the females of United States. So this is definitely what we can call genetic redundancy. The genetic redundancy means that the male strategy could be that one, to fecundate as more people as possible, because at the end of the story, the real risk for the male is not so high to take care of the offsprings, of the possible offsprings. Of course, I'm talking about unfaithful males, not the monogamous male. I'm just trying to understand which are the biological aspects of the pressure of male not to be faithful. So this is quite clear. But what about female? Do you think that the male are more monogamous than female, or female are more monogamous than male? Who is more monogamous? What do you think? You think the female are more monogamous? Okay, let's see the science about it. In order to tell you if you are right or you are wrong, we have also to understand another unique characteristic of our species. We are the unique animal in this planet which is not telling anything about the ovulation to the partner and also to the subject. This is called concealed ovulation, which is absolutely unique. All the animals in this planet, all the female, they do have pheromones, they may dance, they may produce smells, they may change the color of the vagina, they may have plenty of signals which are telling to the male that she is able to have sex because she is producing the egg. Do we have the same? Do we have the same signal? We don't. We are the unique animal with the unique aspect, which is the concealed ovulation, which again means I'm not telling anything when I am producing the egg. I am not telling anything to myself also. She doesn't know when she is producing the egg. So this is a tragedy for men, because what the poor selfish gene of the man can do in order to protect his own genetic investment. How to protect it? He cannot stay in the front of the grotto 7 to 7 days per week, 24 hours per day, 12 months per year. He has to go to the pub. He has to go to the school. He has to go to get money. And who is controlling her? Because if my wife is telling me the day when she is producing the egg, okay, I can stay at home just that day, controlling her in order to be sure that nobody will come in my house to fecundate my wife. But unfortunately, she doesn't know when she's producing the egg. And I don't know when she's producing the egg. So we created a social institution in order to protect the male from the extra pair pregnancies. How it's called, this institution? Marriage. What the marriage is? The marriage is the social control of the concealed ovulation of female. You may believe that the marriage has been created by female in order to keep the man at home. No, no, no. It has been created by male in order to control the body, the female body, which is producing eggs in any time. I hope that your sexual education was good enough. And you know that female may produce eggs even during menstruation, even during the menstrual flux. Any time is good for producing the egg. And there are also very interesting experiments that demonstrate that when she's in love, she's producing more eggs, more easily eggs. When she's falling in love with the plumber, she's producing more eggs. And we will see the consequences of it. Let's go ahead, please. Okay. In some animals, that problem is easily overcome. For example, in the lions, we like the lions. I don't know if you saw the cartoon, The King Lion, very nice cartoon from Walt Disney. Okay, the lions, what are the lions are doing? When the lion is becoming king lion, is the unique one who is able to fecundate the lionesses, the female. Is the unique one who is able to have sex with the female of the branch. But before to do it, what he is doing is to eat all the babies. Eat, nyam, nyam, nyam. He's eating all the babies of the branch. Why? Because he wants to fecundate all the females of the branch with his own genes, own selfish gene only. Okay, this strategy is not good for us because our babies are very expensive and we like it very much. So it is a very universal taboo. We are not killing babies for those purposes. So the strategy of to kill the babies in order to be sure that the future baby will be my babies, my genes, is not a good one. It is a taboo, it is forbidden. And this is the concealed ovulation. And those are the typical signals that the animals are using, that we are not using, that we do not have. We are not changing the color of the vagina. We are not changing the color of our face. We are not producing any kind of particular smell. And any biological signal which is really showing that the ovulation is occurring is totally unreliable. Even if you look at the basal temperature, it's not so effective. If we are looking at the fluidity of the mucus from the vagina, it's not effective. It's not so effective. So we do not have anything that is like that one. What this is? This is a very clear message of what? She is producing the egg. She is ready for copulation. She is ready for sex. So that if I want to be sure that the children will be mine, I must stay here for the time that she is red like that one, to protect the possibility that the other men will come. But this is not occurring in our species. So we created the marriage. Let me go fast because I think that you are a little bit tired. And yes, we have also several things related to things. This book is very interesting because it is a book which is demonstrating that in several species, and it has not been clearly demonstrated in humans, in several species there are spermatozoa with the one particular aim, not to fecundate the egg, but to kill the other spermatozoa. What does it mean? Having specialized spermatozoa able to kill the other spermatozoa. It means that biologically speaking, in the same vagina, 2 or more semen could be present in the same time frame or 72 hours, which is the normal survival of the spermatozoa outside the human body, the male body. So if there is the sperm competition, the killer spermatozoa also in humans is a matter of discussion, but it seems that it's quite true. So now the question is, how frequent is the people who believe to be son or daughter of his own father, but he is not the real child of his own father, which is the percentage of this kind of situation? The female promiscuity, I just want to remember what you said, that the female are more monogamous than male. Let's see if it is true. The female promiscuity was quite a recent discovery, and also in species very, very monogamous like birds. Well, sometimes using the DNA, it is possible to discover that in the egg, the DNA is not that one of the husband, let's say. But what is incredible is the fact that about 10%, 1 every 10, into the Western societies, does not be studied in the Oriental one, but into the Western society, 1 every 10 person is not the biological product of the father. She has been raised by the father who was thinking, I am the proud father of this very beautiful girl, of this very smart boy. But 1 every 10 is not that one. And this is very complex because it's strange. And that results has been demonstrated many years ago. In the 40s, it has been demonstrated that percentage of about 10%, but the American government made forbidden to deliver this news because that news was showing that the American women are not so faithful, so honest, let's say, as the government want to show. 10%, 1 every 10. But the situation could be even worse. I will show you why. Because in order to demonstrate it, you can use a very, very simple method, which is the AB0 blood system. If you know the AB0 blood system, you should know that there are impossible children. In other words, according to the blood system of the mother and the blood system of the father, some blood systems into the babies cannot exist. It is biologically impossible. So I can create a table where in red you will see the impossible children. In other words, if the son, the daughters are having that blood system, they cannot son or daughter of that particular father. So it is very simple because in each hospital, now we are, of course, recording the blood system of the father, of the mother, and of the child, of the baby. in order to prevent the risk of hemagglutination of several hematological problems. So we know how frequent the extra pair baby is coming in the reality. So I'm going to show you very fast the table, which is that one. Okay, that's it. I don't want you to see the table because I don't want to check the blood system, your blood system, that of your father, that of your mother. I wanted to be happy, but I want to tell you that when you are going to London or New York or Rome or Paris, and you go into the underground, into the metro, and you look at 10 persons around, you can be sure that at least one believe to be the children, the son or the daughter of a guy who is not his, her own biological father. And that several articles has been published. So you can also make it more complex, even more careful using the immunological system like the HLA. And this is, again, repeating the 10% figure. We will have several differences in different contexts. This article from Lancet was not so much convinced about these figures, but we will see that they will change the idea. This is another article which is showing that in white people in the United States, the percentage is not so high. When they are looking to the black people, the percentage seems a little bit higher. So we don't know if it is really true or not. This is an article which has been published in the UK, confirming more or less the percentage. In this case, is about 5% of non-paternity. If we go to another model, which is in several countries, no one is Oriental one. So we do not have data from Orient. It will be very interesting to study here this percentage. So the percentage can vary from 1 to 30%. Then this is JAMA. It's a very important journal, again, the Journal of American Medical Association, where they found about 18%. So very, very high. And this is Human Nature, another very good journal, between 13 and 20%. And finally, this is the Lancet, which is again back into the topic. And at that time, Lancet admitted that the percentage could be between 1 to 30%. 1 every 3 believe to be son or daughter of somebody who is not biologically related to her, to him. I'm going to end the story, but before of that, I just wanted to say something about the issue of the blood system. Because I don't know if you got the issue. The percentage of 10% is just for the impossible babies. It means that it's not possible. But if the plumber is having the same blood system of the husband, the percentage may also increase. So your idea that the females are more monogamous than males probably is not so much correct. Probably the percentage of monogamous people is almost identical between female and male. Otherwise, we have to admit that the unfaithful males are going to with the same girl, which is not the case. But I wanted to conclude my very nice afternoon, I mean for me, as I hope it has been for you, telling something which is for me tremendously important. What I described until now was just the few things that the science knows about sexuality, about love, about the seduction strategies, about the beauty. Poets, philosophers, theologians, artists, they know much more than me. They may describe what sex is, what reproduction is, what is the real aim to stay together in a much better way. So in the reality, I described only a very, very, very small things, only very punctual aspects, small aspects of the complex story, which is the male to female sexual and sentimental relationship in the humans. But what the purpose of this afternoon that we passed together was to demonstrate that for the first time, is it possible to use science to understand some little of those interactions between male and female? And this is a huge novelty, because until now, no scientist was really dealing with sex, was really dealing with love, was really trying to understand what seduction is. So I wanted to leave you with a sentence which is coming from famous, I'm pretty sure that you don't know this movie, and I hope that you will find it on internet because it's a very old movie. The name is The Queen of Africa. It is a tremendously romantic movie, which has been done during the Second World War. It is a story of a simple, stupid man who is dating with a smart and intelligent girl. And they are crossing a river in Africa. The Nazis are trying to kill them. So the story is very, very nice. But what's interesting is the fact that during the trip, the Queen of Africa is the name of the boat that they are using to go into that river. During the trip, she's teaching him. And he is growing. He's understanding. He was rude at the beginning. He was a little bit stupid. But after that trip, he understood more from her education. So I stolen one sentence from that movie, which is basically, this is the movie. And this is Humphrey Bogart, a very famous actor of the 40s of the last century. And she's Katharine Hepburn. And what she's telling him, I think is very interesting, very important. She said, Mr. Arnold, which is the name of this guy, the nature, we discussed until now just on the nature, not on the soul, not on what means to be humans. The just nature is just something that we are put in this world to rise above. So we definitely are above the same nature. Come on. Thank you so much for your attention.